Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Sarah.
And I'm Nate, and you're watching SaraNate. Today, we are going to be ranking Sarah Pixar villains. Give me your best evil laugh. Oh. We are going to be ranking the villains based on their iconic status, how important they were to the story, and Sarah, pretty much just what
their goals were as villains, like how evil are their little plans.
Keep in mind, this is just our opinion. It's not set in stone.
You know what they say about opinions?
What do they say?
They're like another part of the body that we all have, and I'm sure the Pixar villains have as well.
Whoa.
So.
What I really like about Pixar villains, in contrast to Disney villains, is that they seem a little more real to me.
Disney's more theatrical, whereas Pixar, these villains are like real life people.
I mean, there are like bears and cars and stuff.
Well, yeah.
But without further ado, let's hop into the list.
Let's. Look at all these villains here. Woody, I need some help.
We're gonna be starting with the very first Pixar villain ever, and that is Sid Phillips from Toy Story. Look, I'm gonna be real. I don't really think he's that much of a villain. To me, he seems like a sympathetic child whose parents aren't really there for him. Remember all the locks on the doors?
Yeah.
You could argue like, yeah, maybe he's just a wacky child who wants to lock himself away, but there's also that scene with the dog and the sleeping father who's got the beard.
All this behavior comes from somewhere.
Right.
He just needs to kind of hone it in a little bit and not sever doll's parts.
Well, yeah.
How did he get those explosives?
And this is 1995, so he's probably
What
like
did he do?
sifting through magazines and just waiting for it to come in the mail. And he is an antagonist from the toys perspective, and he picks on his little sister a little bit, but I mean,
what? He took her doll and took its head off.
and put the pterodactyl head on it?
Yeah.
He's just a misguided kid.
He's just an ordinary day.
I'm gonna give Sid like a C.
I agree with that.
Next up, we have Hopper from A Bug's
Life.
Life. Him and the grasshoppers are essentially a ruling class over the ants, and every harvest, they demand food from the ants.
Hopper's like, we're protecting you from all of the other bugs who are gonna take advantage of you and do these things. It's like, pick up that mirror, Hopper, because y'all are doing the exact same thing.
Hold up.
Funny how that works. It's called projection, children. In a sense, he's ruling over the grasshoppers too.
He takes out the grain and kills his
He kills his own
allies. If they find out that they have more than us, then they can easily just overtake us. He wants to kill his brother if it wasn't for the dying wish of his mother on her deathbed. I give him a A+ or S.
I was gonna say A+.
Next up, we have Stinky Pete the Prospector.
Stinky.
From Toy Story 2. Stinky Pete was one of the best examples of a villain turn toward the end. His manipulation levels to Woody and Jesse and Bullseye are just grandiose.
Astronomical manipulation.
And it's like a long-term vision, right? Because he's like, hey, if we can just add Woody to our collection, we're gonna have a home forever and we'll be good. Remember when he like takes his little prospector mining axe and he's like turns in the vent?
Remember that scene where Woody is like, he wants to leave or something and he's like, you can come with us or you can come with us in pieces.
And he's like, minor details if we still get to Japan. Overall, Stinky Pete the Prospector, I'm gonna give my boy an A.
I agree with that.
Next up, we have Almicklin from Toy Story 2, better known as the owner of Al's Toy Barn. Homeboys get some fire commercials, I gotta say, with the chickens.
I guess it would depend on your definition of fire.
Wow.
They're corny.
Yeah, but people are buying toys by the barn.
He's also just gross. Like his fingers are all orange from the cheese puffs. He went to that yard sale with Andy's mom.
And he's like, yo, let me buy Woody. She's like, he's not for sale. Puts him in the little box where the money goes.
And takes it
steals
anyway.
The box.
He just wants Woody to complete his collection so he can sell it and get that dough.
Just a grimy kind of dude. Very cheap, stingy. I'll give him like a D.
I was gonna give him a C.
Let's just meet in the middle, give him a C-. Next, villains. We get a little 2-for-1 special for you.
2-for-1.
We got Randall and we got Water News from Monsters, Inc. They are in cahoots with one another. Water News is the CEO of Monsters, Inc. and Randall is one of his best employees, second best scarer to Sully. Water News, although his intentions may have been good in the beginning, like he wants to save this family company that he's the CEO of by any means necessary.
Which it always ends up being unethical.
And that's where Randall comes in, and Randall's like, yo, dude, I invented this scream machine. You can like scare kids. You can extract their streams.
Randall don't give a hoot.
And Randall this whole time has been jealous of Sully being the #1 scarer. And at this point, he takes all that jealousy and envy and he's just like, Water News, these dudes know too much. They got a human on the inside. And additionally, he tries to kill Sully. He tries to kill Mike on multiple occasions. Boo. And remember when he's stomping on Sully's hands on the door and he's about to kill him? I give Randall like a high A.
I agree with that.
I gotta give Water News like a B+. He's not out killing people, but he's turning a blind eye and allowing Randall to do his dirty work. Next up, we have Syndrome from The Incredibles. He starts out as Buddy, a little sidekick to Mr. Incredible back in the day. And they're going to thwart bomb voyage.
He wants to help him out, but Mr. Incredible is like, no, Buddy, I work alone.
And then Buddy still tries to intervene and help, but really he lets bomb voyage get away with it. Flash forward like a few decades, and our boy Syndrome is now in full effect.
AKA Buddy.
He has his own private island. He's creating these weapons of mass destruction to release on supers and normal civilians. And he's just holding this jealousy and this chip on his shoulder from what Mr. Incredible said like 25 years prior.
It's like, damn, dude, let that go.
He's got islands and stuff and all this tech, but he's like just, instead of living happy, he's just
living
like,
in anger.
Yeah.
Let this be a lesson to you guys.
His goals and objectives are all time when it comes to Pixar. And for these reasons, he's an S.
S for Syndrome.
Next up, we have Chick Hicks from Cars. We start out with Chick Hicks being one of the best racers in the Piston Cup circuit and one of Lightning McQueen's rivals.
He fights dirty too, like in the races and stuff. He'll
cause crashes,
bumper cars with people.
It's all about the money and the fame for him.
They wanted to get that Dynaco blue.
It's actually a good reflection on what Lightning McQueen's character could have become had he not been enlightened
by going to Radiator Springs and seeing that there is life outside of the Piston Cup.
He ends up winning the Piston Cup final tiebreaker race, but nobody cares because Lightning McQueen saved the old dude and then they went across the finish line together. And it's like, yo, Chicks, why are you being a hick? I give Chick Hicks like a C-.
I agree.
Next up, we have Chef Skinner from Ratatouille. Chef Skinner is the former sous chef of world-renowned chef Gusteau, and Gusteau owned the restaurant in Paris that was like 5-star. Gusteau ends up passing away. Skinner takes the helm at the restaurant, and he begins to start to sell out the famous Gusteau name with like ghetto
TV
frozen
dinners.
He finds out that Linguini is the true son of Gusteau, and hence he is the true heir of the Gusteau fortune, including the restaurant.
He does everything he can to try to thwart Linguini's lead of the restaurant. Like the rat infestation, he tries to call in the health inspector to be like, there's rats in here. Chef Skinner captures Ratatouille so that Linguini basically can't cook. He plans to keep Remy in prison so that he can then use him to create food like once Anton Ego gives them a failing grade.
I give our boy Skinner a C-.
I agree.
Next up, we have Otto from
WALL-E.
The human race built this amazing spaceship with all this technology called Axiom, and the robot that controls all the other technology and robots within the Axiom ship is Otto.
Otto basically wants to make sure that humans don't return to Earth, even if an Eve robot comes back with evidence of plant life.
Not only does he destroy the plant evidence from Eve, he tries to kill her, and then tries to kill Wally on multiple occasions, and he also gets in like a fight with the captain of the ship.
I do find his plan pretty evil. Withholding information, you can go back to Earth, you can live, you can actually walk again and do everything you were doing before this kind of lifestyle.
I give him like a B+.
I do too.
Next up, we have Charles F. Muntz from his claim to fame is that he found this skeleton of this huge, supposedly extinct bird. The scientific community accuses him of lying. Then he's all like, yo, I'm gonna go find this bird. Flash forward 70 years, which I think is pretty crazy. At the minimum, he's 90.
That's dedication.
And he's still walking around. He's got dogs. By this time, Carl and Russell have gone on the up balloon ride of a house.
They found that bird on their journey. journey.
Then the dogs find them, and
Right.
then they report back to Charles Muntz that the bird has been found. He's like, yo, what do you want for dinner? Oh, look, you're not the first explorer with stories. And then he shows all these
Right.
dead people.
So he's a serial killer.
Oh, for sure. I give Muntz like right in the Hopper range.
I agree.
High A. Next up, we have Lotso Huggin Bear from Toy Story 3. The whole gang gets shipped off to Sunnyside Daycare. We find out that Lotso Huggin Bear runs this place like a dictator prison. He got replaced by his owner, and now his whole perspective is toys are replaceable, nobody loves you, so I hate everybody. I don't think that's good enough to declare what he's doing.
That's the thing, is that in his mind it is, because he was hurt so bad from being replaced.
Arguably the most iconic moment in all of Pixar history. The toys are going down the incinerator. They prop up Lotso Huggin to be like, yo, dude, we're gonna save you. And then he's like, so long, Sheriff. And then he just runs away.
I remember seeing that for the first time, and I'm just like, what? Are you freaking kidding me?
I give him an S.
I do too.
Next up, we have
Mordo
from Brave.
If you could change your fate, would you? He wanted to have the strength of 10 men because he wanted to be the strongest ruler, but he becomes this huge black bear.
Remember when Merida finds the lair underground in the collapsed palace?
It's like a fallen kingdom.
And then he comes out and he tries to grab her, and he kind of comes out of nowhere toward the end of the movie where he's just like, oh, this is what happened to Mordo. He went down the same path you were going. It's like, okay, cool.
Well, it's like a cautionary tale of be careful what you wish for, and that power isn't everything. Like, he had a family and he ruined it all with his greed and selfishness.
And remember at the end when Merida and her mom like release him, and then the soul comes out and they give a little like that's like gonna suffice for thousands of murders?
What else can he say? He's like a thing. He's a spirit.
I give him like a C-.
I agree with that.
Next up, we have Ernesto De La Cruz from Coco.
Ernesto De La Cruz was a famous singer in life, and even when he's gone, everyone still has him revered as this amazing singer. He's the reason that Miguel wants to go into the afterlife to get the approval for him to play his music. So we come to find out that Ernesto and Hector were musical partners.
Hector wrote all the music.
Hector wrote all the music, and it was his guitar, but he wanted to go be with his family. So he tells this to Ernesto and then has a toast with him. Unbeknownst to Hector, he poisons him, takes his guitar and his music, and then goes on to become famous from Hector's music.
And then on top of that, he tries to kill Miguel once he finds this out.
And then like double kill Hector in the afterlife.
Ernesto De La Cruz, S.
I agree. CC.
Next up, we have Evelyn DeVore, aka Screenslaver from The Incredibles
2.
Evelyn wants supers to not be a thing anymore. That's her goal, her objective. She's working behind the scenes at DevTech to hypnotize and control supers and people in these positions of political power to do her bidding for her, to destroy the evidence and do the actual deeds, even though she's the one controlling them as Screenslaver. It's actually a really good plan.
It is a good plan.
But I think her backstory all like, oh, my dad called the supers when we were getting a home invasion because he wanted them to help. Now I hate them. Yeah.
Well, if that's a trauma that she didn't process, like, of course she's gonna, it's gonna run rampant.
The whole backstory for Evelyn and Screenslaver is really cool. It gives the audience a perspective of why these villains are the way they are. Screenslaver, I give her A.
I agree.
Finally, we have Gabby from Toy Story 4. So Gabby's motives are really pretty simple. She wants Harmony, this little girl who keeps coming into the antique store, to buy her. But in order to do that, she needs to be able to speak again.
She would like Woody's voice box.
And she has some of the scariest looking henchmen in Pixar history.
Then why are there so many?
Why aren't there so many? She actually achieves her goal of getting Woody's voice box. She gets it, then Harmony's picking her up slowly, and then she's like, nah, I'm all good. And her world shatters. And then at the carnival at the end, she finally finds this little girl who's lost. The little girl picks her up and she's like,
I'll be your friend, I'm lost too. And
in comparison to the other villains, she's not really doing crazy, hardcore, evil things. I give Gabby like a C+.
I was gonna give her a C-.
We'll give her a C-. Let's review the list. S's, Syndrome, lots of Huggin Bear.
Ernesto De La Cruz.
A's, Hopper, Muntz, Randall, Stinky Pete, Screenslaver. B's, Waternoose, Otto. C's, Sid, Almicklin,
Chick Hicks.
Chef Skinner, Mordo, and Gabby. That's our list. Let us know what villains you agree with, what villains you disagree with.
What villains we may have missed or that you wanted to see.
Like, share, and subscribe to SaraNate and click that bell button so you never miss a new episode.
That's all the time we've got for today, folks. We will see you next time.